The power of MGTOW is self-evident, and any man focused on utilizing the strengths of it to his advantage should be aware of the requirements that must be met to reach that point. During the process of achieving masculine empowerment, the shedding of the ego and the reconstruction of one's worldview using the undeniable truths that have been presented to you and that you have observed in your own path are necessary steps. You will lose many things that you likely held dear and that contribute to shaping your personality, outlook, and ambitions. There will be days when you will wish that you had never found MGTOW at all, so that you could go back to your former self and reclaim what was lost, but hopefully you snap out of that train of thought just as quickly as you entered it, because it would be an injustice to your future self to give up when the going gets tough. Examining eternal behavioral patterns that have always existed and will always exist is something that strips you of your naive nature and leaves you stranded in the middle of nowhere naked and alone. This is a major red flag. The first thing that you lose is the innocence that kept you from seeing what was right in front of you the whole time. Delving into the worst aspects of female nature is one thing, however, to examine eternal behavioral patterns that have always existed and will always exist is something that strips you of the fact that a great number of characteristics of modern women have emerged as a result of the organization of our contemporary societies. But there are also a great number of characteristics that are inherently a part of women and which may be able to be partially restrained but can never be eradicated entirely. You can never go back to sleep because it is the great double-edged sword that you will use to confront the world from now on. Yes, the modern woman is a wreck and an embarrassment, but women from previous generations would present many of the same difficulties. This can help put things into perspective and reveal that the struggle to preserve male sovereignty extends far beyond any social engineering decadence or corruption that we might face today. It is a wonderful thing, on the one hand, to be aware, to be conscious of your surroundings, and to continue working to expand your understanding of what is going on around you. Sticking your head in the sand won't work anymore because your head won't fit. Turning the other way and ignoring what you know to be true will only drive you crazy with guilt and the insecurity that comes from knowing you aren't pushing yourself in the right direction. However, on the other hand, because you can never go back to sleep, you can never truly rest. The loss of my drive was the thing that affected me the most after I discovered MGTOW. I had goals of making 6 figures and eventually having a large family, but after some self-reflection that followed my discovery of MGTOW, I no longer have those goals. I came to the conclusion that I couldn't waste my youth and body by toiling away at something that would be used against me in the future. It wasn't even so much about having children as it was about constructing something that can be handed down to subsequent generations. I'm gone. The absence of this drive caused a fundamental shift in the structure of everything after some time. However, I realized that I hadn't lost the drive, rather, I just needed to rediscover it. It had never left me, but its appearance had shifted and it had become difficult for me to recognize. Because I was still looking at the world through my old set of eyes with an antiquated perspective that did not take into account what I wanted and what would best serve my interests, I mentally retired from that life and chose to be a teacher and live a simple life, building myself and passing on things that are more important to me than simple genes. I also chose to live in a place where I could pass on things to my students that I had learned that were more important to me than simple genes. The drive is never truly lost, it merely needs to be redirected in order to serve another purpose of yours. The next thing that falls away as you reshape yourself after finding MGTOW is the relations you have to the majority of people. Just because someone's worldview doesn't align exactly with yours after finding MGTOW doesn't mean they can't offer something else, but understand that despite the fact that the majority of people are self-centered and narrow-minded, they don't really serve themselves. You can learn something from every person, even if it's what not to do. Just because someone's worldview doesn't align exactly with yours after finding MGTOW doesn't mean they can't offer something else. They never challenge the comfortable prison that they live in because the opinions of others and the boundaries that are placed onto them by their culture bind them, and they have never challenged the cultural norms that have created those boundaries. The highest form of consciousness is when you are in direct communication and understanding with your inner self. Your thoughts and your desires, which can be better understood through meditation, introspection, and expression, are something that is foreign to them, making these methods an unnecessary distraction that only serves to dismantle you. The world that was constructed for them to live in underwent the most profound change as a result of the passing of romanticism with women. This is true regardless of whether you choose to take pleasure in the MGTOW monk or bachelor lifestyle and the idealism it offers you. Once had with women will no longer be available. There will be no more butterflies, no more daydreams, and no more questions regarding their motivations. Once you know how women operate, you start to realize that they are an entirely different species. That they approach every single situation from a different perspective based on their biology and unchangeable characteristics. Now that they have been removed from the goal of the path, they can never amount to anything more than passing distractions because they are incapable of approaching every circumstance from a different perspective. Isn't it big quite an experience to live in fear? That's what it's like to be a slave. Big quite an experience.